All right, we're ready. Are you ready? You got your laptop out
ready.
and everything. I like. I can't remember what the guy earlier said. I say this all the time. People generate content. I generate content. Right? That's an important thing. Right? You want people to feel happy. People, they will often forget that you made them think, but they will never forget how you made them feel. You understand? Okay. There ends the lesson. To discuss medical and adult use Cannatech, we have some leaders in the field, and this panel will be moderated by the editor-in-chief from Cannabis and Tech Today. Well, that's a good choice then. We made a good decision there.
Made a lot of sense.
And he works with business development at STM Canada. Let's hear it for Charles Warner.
Yes!
Chuck.
Woo! All right. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for that warm introduction. We are going to be talking a little bit about cannabis tech. And since I'm the publisher at Cannabis and Tech Today, it kind of makes some sense. Cannabis isn't just growing anymore, it's evolving. Everything from cultivation to harvesting to distribution to consumption. Technology is affecting the entire industry. Medical, adult use, it's a technology playground. And I promised Alex that we would, we'd keep the panel high level, not just high. So we have got the full cannabis ecosystem on stage right here. We've got devices, we got distribution, we've got brand and compliance, so this definitely should be a fun one. Before we jump in, I want to give our panelists about a minute to introduce themselves, tell us what they're focused on right now, and what's got their attention in cannabis tech. So take it away, and let us know a little bit about you and what you guys are doing.
Wonderful. Thanks, Chuck. Appreciate it, and good afternoon, everyone. My name's Chris Budd. I am the subject matter expert at Isolocity. Isolocity is an electronic quality management solution that helps companies, not just in the cannabis space, but all industries who operate in a regulated environment, streamline their compliance and the record keeping and making that more efficient but compliant. What's got our attention at the moment is the updated regulations coming up with Annex 11. Of course, that's going to have a big impact on a lot of our clients in this space, and obviously this being a medical cannabis tech conversation. So that's something at Isolocity that we're keeping track of and understanding how we need to incorporate changes to our validation and release schedules to ensure that we maintain compliance with regulators in Europe. That's a little bit about me and what we're up to, and Jürgen, I'll give it to you.
Thank you very much. Yes, good afternoon. My name is Jürgen Bickel. I'm a co-founder from Storz & Bickel, and until 2 weeks ago I was also managing director of Storz & Bickel, and after 25 years I have stepped down from this role. But obviously the last 25 years I have spent my time in technology about how to use cannabis, how to inhale it. I think the most people know our products, the Volcano, very famous, and the other products we have. And yeah, of course, what I'm interested in, I'm still overall interested in better ways to consume. We have innovated the space the last 25 years. The last product last year was the VC, and of course, SMB will keep driving innovations. And yeah, and I'm looking forward to the discussion today.
Thank you.
Awesome. Richard Yost here with Aero Brands. So Aero is a consumer packaged goods company that's focused on in the U.S., mostly around vape and product innovation in that sector. We operate across 23 different states there, and kind of had a chance to learn a lot and see a lot, but more recently we've been expanding here around the world. So in terms of our focus, it's been how to get products registered and get into these new medical markets. The U.S. doesn't have that same barrier, so it's definitely been a process and a new focal point for the company.
Awesome. Hey, can we give our panel a round of applause? These guys are ready to rock and roll with us, and just as we get started right now, let's talk about where technology is really leading the way when it comes to cultivation, consumption, distribution, and maybe where it's falling short a little bit. Who wants to start?
Yeah, I can start. Of course, I think, of course, on the consumption side, where we are in technology is very important. I mean, 25 years ago, when we brought up the first product, we always said, of course, our main competitor is not another vaporizer, it's the joint. You know, and today, 25 years later, it is still a little, not as much, but still partially the case. If you look to Germany, if you look here to the social clubs, if you look what people are really using, the most people are still smoking joints, and a lot of them are still smoking it with tobacco. So I think there is still a bright future for all consumption technology. You know, from your side, from our side, of course, yeah, the compliance part is important, but technology will keep going. Although today I saw one or two interesting devices for people who are thinking about how can this be done better. And of course, I hope personally that in some point in the future that the joint smoking, the smoking process itself really gets something like maybe like with nicotine. You know, if you smoke, you have to go somewhere outside. If you really want to be in an environment where you consume together, I really believe if you vaporize, the room is better, the smell is better, the high is better, the taste is better. It's almost on every angle better. The only thing what you have maybe with a joint, you have the tradition, you know, or you have the nicotine if you mix it with tobacco. So I believe there is still a bright future. But it already has changed the whole consumption methodology over the years a lot.
Yeah, and fast. It's changing fast.
Yeah, very much.
What do you guys think? Where are we doing it? Where are we getting it done? And where are we falling short with regard to technology?
I mean, from our point of view, I think we're seeing a lot of innovation, of course, happen across the supply chain. I think one of the biggest segments that we're seeing some very new and kind of novel and interesting technologies around extraction and ways to isolate components. I think when I talk about the technology a little bit, you know, there's regulatory hurdles for us to build standardized products across various markets, and I think some of that when we think about the extraction side, some of it is around, you know, being able to isolate terpenes that are then shippable, which has its own regulatory challenges. But at the end of the day, they're also enhancing the product. So stuff that, you know, guys like myself and you're going to working on is really enhanced when we're able to optimize both parts of that experience. And we do see a lot of room to grow there. I think some of what we've seen is almost ahead of the marketplace, right? And so how do we get it back into a world where it's timed right with the consumer? Outside of that, I think we're, of course, you know, we're doing a pretty good job as a whole. I think there's a little bit to do on like in the U.S. We're in a very balkanized distribution system, so having the right tie-in around inventory management, and then last mile delivery has been an interesting curve. We're not fully there yet, but we're getting there pretty quickly.
Okay.
I mean, from my side of it and how we play in the industry would be more so where I think technology is failing the industry is change management. If you talk to any European producer who has to follow Eurolex Annex 11, everyone is scared to adopt an electronic quality management software. So I think the challenges that we have in our industry and how we support our clients is to ensure that we can provide a system that is easy to jump into from a change management perspective, and that allows them to get through the regulatory audits unscathed. Why is that important for the industry as a whole? Is that by creating efficiencies in the production side, it's actually better for the consumer, but also not only creating efficiencies with how you manage your data, but de-risking the entire process. So it's also protecting the consumer as well too. So, you know, it's interesting to hear from the gentleman to my left and what they're thinking about when it comes to technology and how it's improving, but also where the opportunities are. From our side of it, we're looking at the people who produce the good stuff that creates the enjoyment in the industry and how we help them. But in a market in Europe, there's a lot of red tape for these types of companies to adopt a system like ours. So it's on us to ensure that it's done in a way that is easy to adopt, easy to validate, and the change management is seamless.
Yeah, I mean, is it going to be a situation where there's so many different regulations and so many different, you know, if it was more standardized across the board, would it be a lot easier for everybody to play, or is it just, it's just the way the game's going to be?
Well, there is similarities between what's happening in Europe and with Health Canada and even the FDA as far as GMP, data integrity. There's something, 21 CFR Part 11 is a requirement in North America that is closely aligned to what's happening with Annex 11, but the new updates with Annex 11 that are still in draft format are moving the needle a little bit further along when it comes to AI and AI adoption and where those parameters are in electronic systems like ours. So no, there's no real continuity, though there is close resemblances between the different standards. It's not like an ISO standard, like ISO 9001 is ISO 9001. It doesn't matter if you're in Canada, if you're in Germany, it's 9001, and this is the standard that you need to follow. Unfortunately, it's with the different jurisdictions and the health authorities, they have their own sort of hit list that they find are important, and that creates challenges for companies like ours, but that's why it's on us to ensure that it's easy to jump into and that we've already overcome those challenges for our clients.
All right.
Yeah, maybe to add, I think overall it is normal that international regulations are different. You know, and if you look to medical devices, it is always different in the world, and it always was, and it seems to be that it will be. And of course, you can complain and you cannot do this or that, but it is what it is. You have to go. If you look to the ISO 13485, obviously it is also one set of rules, but of course much different, interpreted by Brazil than, for example, by Germany. And this is something we have to take in care. In medical devices, you have the MD sub, the medical device single audit program, what is an intention to recognize, to mutual recognize audits, so you don't have too much audits in your factory. But if you look to the SMB factory and then the audits, for example, and you have a TOV audit every 2 years, every 3 years you have a recertification, then you have surveillance audits, then you have factory inspection, we have factory inspection from UL, and of course it consumes a lot of time and effort, and of course then you have to see, okay, what Israel wants, what Australia wants, what Brazil wants, and you see a little bit what they want is always a little bit to their jurisdiction, you know, to the size of their market. The bigger the market, the more requirements they have. The smaller the market, they tend to say, okay, we still want them to be here on the market, so we cannot ask too many different things. But I think it's something normal, and I think there was another panel before about compliance and the benefit of compliance. You know, it's not only a hurdle; it's also a benefit. You know, I mean, I guess your Aero device is also different now, following all the rules than it was before if you would not. So it really helps you also to develop. It helps you to become a better company. Change management is something what is very, very important. Or, you know, your CAPA system, your change management system, all about traceability in medical devices, that you really can always confirm where your suppliers are coming from, where it is built, to whom it is sold to, and all that. So overall, for a customer, for a client, I would always say it's beneficial to have regulations and to have certifications and to have audits in place. I think this is very important and very beneficial.
Yeah, that's a good perspective, not from the business standpoint. Well, yeah, I mean, from the business standpoint, but definitely from the consumer standpoint, saves us from a lot of problems down the road. So let me ask you this. How are advancements in cultivation, harvesting, compliance, how are they affecting the end result for the consumer, especially when it comes to things such as dosage, trust? You know, how is that happening right now?
I think ultimately the innovations in tech are kind of across the board are making products better, and as it relates to right. So if we're a vape company and we work on hardware and hardware innovation, we have an oil that was 5 years ago different than what's coming out of a machine today at a much more efficient rate, right?
Yeah.
So it's quality and cost that we're able to deliver at a much larger scale than we were 7 years ago, 8 years ago in the U.S. I think from a regulation standpoint, to echo what Jürgen said, you know, the reality is if you're, I think on the product side, trying to build a company that's trying to position itself as being a gold standard, you know, you start off doing the right thing. So in the U.S., we don't have the same rules around devices and hardware that we have in the EU. Very quickly have kind of come through the ringer there, but even on the product side, and I think ultimately the trust and confidence that the consumer gains through the regulations has been, to me, is a different level, right? Here in markets where you're going through years of stability testing, right? The consumer is it's easier to rely on that versus the black market.
Okay. What about the, you've got markets like Germany, they're, expanding under strict regulations. How do you build scalable systems that, whether we're talking about devices, operations, or quality, that will actually work across both the medical and the adult use side?
Yeah, maybe I can talk to it because I think SMB, we have the medical device on the market since 2010,
Wow.
16 years. In the last 16 years, there was no other company who has done this. Yeah, so recently we have developments, so it seems to be that it's in a little bit different category, but at least somebody is coming on the marketplace and said, I have a regulation here as well. And of course, for Germany, if you really want to have access to the market, in difference to the US, where it is very open and it's all managed about liability at the end of the day. At the end of the day, you are a manufacturer and you're liable, and that's it. And if you don't, that's your line there. But in Europe, not. In Europe, regulations are much more strict. I would say the government is also strictly looking to it and following it up on it, and also the customer is more expecting it, and it can also be an advantage, a competitive advantage if you have it. And I think it is the baseline to be scalable. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is the baseline to be scalable. Of course, we at SMB, it is managed that you have a household device, it is called, where the intended use is for chamomile and peppermint, but this is the main business. And you have the medical devices where the intended use is for cannabinoids, and this is a little bit your smaller business. You have more restrictions in it. And and scalable, one big difficulty in scalability, I would say, is not the technology side. If you have demand to produce 1,000 a day or 10,000 a day, you are able to manage that in an overseeable time. But what your restrictions come out of regulations is in marketing. You can almost not talk about anything. If you look to SMB, you have always nice pictures and somebody is exhaling something. And you never can say what it is. And if you have the medical device approval, then you are only allowed to talk to professionals. You can to physicians, to nurses. You can also only talk to professional staff. You can also not talk to the public. And on the third side, you are not allowed by any major platform normally to really do advertisement, not by Facebook, not Instagram, not Google, never. All of them you are banned if it is about cannabis. So the problem of scalability I would also see is how to really reach your audience. In general for cannabis, I think this is you see there's a lot of people out there who don't even know what vaporization is. Yeah. If I talk to CSCs here, a lot of people that don't know. We are 25 years on the market, and you don't know that this technology exists at all.
It's true.
Yeah. And not to talk about concentrates and that. So the market here, at least over here, where there was no legal system available at all, does not know these products. Does not even know edibles really. You are always talking with people like here. These all informed people. They of course know everything, but the broader public is really difficult to reach. They don't look too much YouTube or Insta or journals about it. So it's really difficult to reach. So this is, I would say, one point of scalability is how you can do really marketing.
Yeah, I think that's interesting too, because from the beginning we just complained because we couldn't advertise online and we couldn't do anything. But it's actually, if you flip the script like what you just said, it's a barrier to growth for these businesses because people aren't educated, and everybody's on social media, everybody's on Google, and if they can't learn about our products and they can't learn about these things, then we got to find other ways to educate them.
And if I could just add from a scalability perspective and how we play in the industry, and it's really reduced the number of clicks, but also don't have different compliance schemes that are conflicting with each other. So find a way to build an integrated management system with your platform and have everything run through one platform. That gives you standardization, gives you consistency and repeatable results, which is what we want in quality. We're all about de-risking. That's short and sweet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
short and sweet.
And Chuck, I think
Sabrina Carpenter.
if I could just add to that, like when we think about scalability in manufacturing, the U.S. was uniquely situated for like a market like Germany, right? In every state, we work with different producers, different partners at a very small batch. And so even though we've done stabilities, which is part of the beautiful thing, right? You go through a stability process, you're in a legal country that can export. There's a lot of scale there that we've never seen being in the U.S.
Yeah.
But in a market like Germany, where everything's magisterial prep, having the ability to walk in and work with some of the larger compound pharmacies at the scale that we're used to on a state-by-state level, I think gives us an understanding and an edge in terms of how we can get into the market today and really start to build out at least our side, which is a whole new category.
Yeah.
Jurgen's been here. We're both on the device side. Ours is very much around concentrates, which is, concentrates and inhalation is sub 1% here in vape in Germany. So there's a lot of room for growth, a lot of room to develop and scale, and it's been a very interesting process. I also think the other point that he made around being beneficial for you, not just the customer, we've already touched on that, but we didn't realize, I think when we came to Europe, we didn't realize naively, we thought it would just be like opening up another state for us. Totally not the case, right? We, of course, adhere to the highest standard of the US, but today on a state-by-state basis, that's not the level that Europe is at. So just going through the learning curve of what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, and the level, it's, on one hand, it's challenging, on the other hand, it's very refreshing, right?
Yeah.
We know what we have, we know what we're able to do, our partners are in compliance, everybody that we operate with is in compliance.
So what do you guys think is the biggest operational bottleneck right now that tech can affect and maybe we'll fix it in the next, next few years?
Validation. That's like the biggest pain point for any of our clients in Europe right now is getting through the regulators and validation. And so a system like Isolocity comes over the counter validated, but as soon as you start tinkering with it, you have to do your own validation and revalidate this. And there's a whole protocol that needs to happen. And that is the biggest challenge for all of our clients is validating their software and getting the regulatory bodies off their back about it. So if we can find a way where it can be done natively within the app based on the customized changes the clients have inputted themselves, I feel like that would take a lot of work away from our clients and make them very happy. So that's what we're working on.
Yeah, I would say, operational on, if you look to producing devices and sourcing the parts and then assembling and distributing, that is not there. I don't see that there is any major bottleneck. Software is a bigger problem. Yeah, software validation, of course, to validate an ERP system is almost impossible. Yeah, and it's almost not so asked anymore. There was times where they asked for, but if you have a medical device, for example, and you want to have an app.
Yeah.
And your app becomes a medical device, and you then have to develop, and you have to prove that you have developed the whole app under the respective norms. Then it can become really extremely challenging, because it's always, if you have not clearly at the beginning of your development process which norms you want to follow,
yeah.
and you have to do it afterwards, what you maybe also had to do because you already had your products ready. It's always a little bit difficult part. And on software, it's extremely difficult to make. It's really hard to prove and to have a little concept to show that the software does what you said, and to go into an app. If you see these products today. And where they can go, of course, in the moment we have cartridges, what you can use, where you have, of course, a more exact dosing, and then you can, of course, imagine that you have an app with it, and the app recognizes what you have used. Recognize not only what kind of strain you have used, you also recognize how much puffs you have taken, and then you even could go to recommend something. If you think about this, what is a potential future on the app side, there is a big regulatory hurdles really to take to allow you that an app tells you, hey, take another hit. Yeah, yeah. That is a way to go. But I'm a strong believer that this will happen.
Yeah.
This will happen in the last I would say 3 years, maybe something. Somebody has to push it through the regulation. And in general, if you look to all this AI thing, what now is, I think every company already is using AI. Everybody already today, and of course there's nothing sure, and nothing is certified, and nothing. It's really very, very difficult to go this road. But at the same time, everybody's using it. It's like a wave who is definitely faster than the regulation.
Yeah.
But that in itself is going to bring its own bottlenecks from a compliance perspective.
Yeah.
We're already seeing it right now with the update that's happening to Annex 11 and how it's incorporating AI. So in itself, it's going to become self-defeating because you can use AI to create efficiencies, but that actually might be harnessed a bit by the regulators. So it's to be determined.
Yeah. I'm glad you guys brought up AI because there's no way we could have a talk about cannabis tech and not talk about AI, right? I mean,
Yeah.
this is how. Are you guys all using AI in your businesses and stuff? Raise your hand if you are. So about half of you. Okay. You'll all be using it really soon, whether you want to or not. It is absolutely. The robots are coming, and it's going to affect. It's going to affect every single bit of our business. Let's do like a little lightning round here. I'll ask you guys a question, and then you just let the audience know what you think. What's set up most for success right now by technology? Is it the cultivation side or is it the consumption side?
I feel like I'm a bit biased, but I'm gonna take the opposite side. I feel like it's the consumption side.
Okay.
Only
Why?
because more money. You want to bring the money in,
Yeah.
so that's all about making that process easier. I don't know.
Yeah, I think definitely the consumption side is at least, or that's from our point of view, the most interesting one.
Yeah.
And it also where we have the most benefit, where we have, like said before, we have still this joint smoking thing and tobacco stuff available. So I clearly believe that on the consumption side, but okay, I'm not a grower, but I think also this very big indoor growing facilities, I guess they will also start to use really a lot of AI, not only in controlling, maybe also in harvesting and in also the processing. So I think, of course, there it will also happen, obviously.
Yeah. Rich?
Yeah, I mean, it's consumption for sure, right,
Yeah.
on the side that we're on. And I think I think that there's just from what we see on both sides of the pond here, there's just so much room for more.
Yeah.
Both around, hardware development and then, what we call software development, which is the product, the API side as well. Right, so there's just a tremendous amount of room to go. I think it's very early days. I think that's going to tie in long term with consumer preference.
Yeah.
That shift is going to happen. It's like AI. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Mm-hmm. So we're very bullish on where the consumption side goes, and then ultimately how that how the consumer interacts with both brands and products and retail, right? Or over here in how the patient interacts with the doctor, but you guys have already kind of nailed it, right? You're able to use the federal system the way it is today, and so it's pretty seamless from a patient standpoint. We have a long way to go in the U.S.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think we've all got devices for consumption that were really cool for a minute, and then they end up in a drawer or something like that for one reason or another. So there is definitely room for more tech and more innovation on the consumption side, but also at the same token, I was talking to some guys today, they're sending seeds up into space, I mean, we're literally, they're talking about how, they might come back after being exposed to that radiation and stuff, and we might have like turquoise plants and stuff. So, I mean, all across the board, technology is going to be everywhere. So I think either side, both sides, there's going to be a ton of things, and it's going to happen fast in an industry where things don't always go fast. What's the most overrated trend in cannabis right now?
I think that it depends on what markets you're talking about. I think that like in the in the U.S., it's very much about getting high, and so there's been a lot of, for an adult use customer, right, there's a heavy user market, and there's been a lot of just bundle a handful of concentrates together and put it on top of a joint.
Yeah.
And I think that's, to me, is an overrated use and version of an experience. I think the customer's starting to very quickly get more sophisticated and say, okay, well, when I mash these 5 things together, I'm going to need to refine that at some point.
Yeah.
But I think it's cultural. It's very different there than it is here.
You guys got one?
Yeah, overrated. I don't know. I mean, everybody has the chance to compete and to convince people for using things. Overrated. I mean, there are 2 developments I would know overrated, but I don't like so much to observe. One is the high THC thing, you know, where everybody believes he needs to have 30% as minimum, you know, and then if you use a vaporizer, it's not necessary to use 30%. You know, you get high much earlier. Of course, you can build up consumption. Yeah. So I would say that this is one thing, and my second thing. I'm sorry, I forgot.
Let's hurt some feelings. Let's go. You got one, Chris?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I'd rather just not say anything because I don't have nothing smart to say.
No, that's fine. That's fine. We don't. We got no problem with that. What's one thing operators are doing today that will not exist in 5 years?
Well, if I can add to the last
Yeah,
question, my second point, or the second thing I don't like is pre-roll joints. I mean, the last time in Canada, I saw a pack of 60 half-gram pre-roll joints. You know, like 3 pack of cigarettes in joints.
Yeah.
You know, so I call this a pre-roll pandemic over there. You know,
Like the little dog walkers?
yeah.
The little, yeah.
Yeah, because it's million, and then you get it also infused, and you get all kinds of things, and
Oh,
also
yeah.
always not enough THC. But you know, a pack of 60 pre-roll joints, I think, you know, if you want to convince people from other consumptions methods, and it's normally it's not a good quality weed what comes into the pre-roll joints as well. So this is really on the low side, where I'm a big fan, and I hope this market develops more into the connoisseur direction, and really to appreciate the flower and to respect it a little bit more than with 60 pre-roll joints. What I saw.
A carton of pre-rolls. Last question here, and then we'll turn it over to the audience. If you had to start from scratch in Europe, what do you build first?
A distribution hub.
Okay.
I mean, it depends what you want to sell. First, you need a product, of course.
Right. Well, I wouldn't grow it here. I would just import it from Canadian producers.
Okay.
Yeah, of course, growing here is not good. But I think to start a new business, the most important thing is to start. You know, you see always all businesses over the years they learn, and it's the most important thing is not to be too theoretical. Is to go into practice, to develop your product or whatever you wanna sell. Doing it, going to the shows, talking to the people, offering to the people, get feedback, and get started. So far, I think the market is in Germany at least it is growing a lot. We still will have a great time this year. We don't expect legal changes. I don't know, 200 tons last year. So I think I would say the goal for this year is 300 tons. You know, what we would like to see. Of course, the overall market is estimated in 600 to 900 tons. Yeah. But I said, you know, just do it.
Okay. You got.
No. I think for us, like Jürgen, it just depends on what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, we look at Europe, and I don't think we would change anything that we're doing strategically. We're set up how we would be, but spending more time here earlier, and as a U.S. company, understanding the regulations a little bit better.
Yeah.
Knowing that it's a long lead time.
And honestly, we're talking about tech, but it still comes back to that one basic thing, which is relationships, contacts.
100%.
People that you know, right? That's what this industry is built on. Okay, let's turn it over to the crowd. We got a bunch of innovators. We got a bunch of smart people here. Anybody got a question for this this panel on cannabis and tech? Anybody?
If there's no question.
Oh yeah, I was actually going to say.
Let me ask something, please. If you compare the German and the American and the US market, the Canadian market, I can see in Germany we have a fear of high THC products. That's a real fear. When it comes to pharmaceutical use, medical use, when it comes to adult use, recreational use, there's a real fear, the regulation. When it comes to recreational use, there's also special regulations for THC contents. And in the US and in Canada, it's more the way, the higher the THC content is, the less plant material I have to inhale, the purer the medicine is, and the less I have to inhale. How can we get that together, those two attitudes?
First of all, great question. And in terms of like merging the attitude, which to me, like one of the more interesting things, just spending a little bit of time here this week was understanding how many people talked about higher THC flower available through the pharmacy, but how much of the market is actually then cutting that and reducing it with tobacco in a pre-roll joint.
And pure concentrates are not allowed due to German. It's very different from the US. Pure concentrates are not allowed in the pharmacy. They are limited to 25% of THC.
Correct.
I know there are other products existing at the moment, but it's not 100% clear if it's legal to sell them at the moment. So, but I see this. There's a real fear in the public discussion, and you don't have this discussion in the US or Canada about this high THC danger.
No.
And as a patient, for me, it's more important to inhale less material, and if I stick to my doctor's recommendation, I inhale the same amount of THC.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, but at the same time, if you look to the US and to Canada, of course, you see these tendencies of really very high THC intake. You know, not only the percentage in the flower, people are also using these high amounts of THC, and we have a lot of people seeing. We will see over time if it does any damage, if people are really using these high amounts of THC the whole day long. You know, with ball vapes, with all kinds of stuffs, and if you're doing this 20 years. I can say from my experience, you can use more than 20 years cannabis without major concerns or anything. But if you do it at that level, so on one side, I understand a little bit the concern and build your tolerance up and up and up. What you see with concentrates, especially that people then using concentrates and don't go back to flower because it's not enough THC anymore. So some of these concerns I can understand, and I would obviously like to see a little bit less THC in average, and people are really a little bit more focusing on flavor, on terpenes, and on this side.
Yeah. And I also think you're going to get it through extracts, right? The markets seem globally are slower, but they're opening up to extracts. And so as that comes, you'll have a form factor, various form factors that you can rely on in terms of dosage, milligrams, right? And that'll interact differently with you, whether you vape it or ingest it or take it in a gel capsule, right? So, but those days are coming as extracts open up.
But you'll also find bad examples for extract abuse, This is when it comes to this, you always find examples for abuse. If I think about those people who are dabbing from morning to evening, inhaling 2,000, 3,000 milligrams of THC a day, not on medical basis. I'm not sure if that is good for your health, but you always see bad examples for abuse. Doesn't matter if it's about extract, it's about pharmaceutical, adult use, if it's about pharmacy, clubs, or anything, you always have bad examples for abuse.
Yes.
Of any substance, not only about cannabis.
And we got one more time for one more question, and then we got to wrap it up.
Hey.
Okay.
What's up, everybody? Question about DEA rescheduling in the U.S. and thinking about medicinal and adult use markets. I think Michigan is a great model to look at, where it had a very robust medicinal market, and then the rec market came in and basically shut down the medicinal market. So when you talk about patients and like really prioritizing patient advocacy first, we have to make these places, I would say, inclusive of medicinal patients, even though there's a rec market out there. My question is, with DEA rescheduling and really being a focus on medicinal here in the US, what is tech doing to sort of get prepared to be proactive for that, but also not being swayed to just move down the rec commercial path because that's where the money is?
Yeah, quick answer, guys, so we can wrap it up.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of separating too much medical and recreational, and at least I'm a believer, and this is what we are doing with SMB products, is that a recreational user has the same right to have the same quality weed, the same, he's also inhaling, maybe his purpose is another one, but that it's always on the recreational user that he can use a lower quality weed, a device who is out of China with no certification, whatever. So I believe that we have to start to see the recreational market also as some sort of medical market who also deserves the same level of quality like the medical market.
There you go. All right, guys, listen, we got to wrap this up. Thank you so much. Can we give the panel a round of applause, please? Thank you, everybody here. And the moral of the story is tech is everywhere.